Are you guys ready to see how I cook a Texas style brisket on my Deep South mailbox? Follow along, we're about to get started. All right guys, to get started on our Texas style brisket, and let me explain myself. I'm just using a little more coarse black pepper on it, calling it Texas style. I'm gonna trim this thing up and leave a lot of meat on it. I don't wanna lose a lot of the fat on it because I'm gonna cook this thing and I'm gonna let it go. All right, so I'm gonna take my knife here and this big hunk of fat right here, I wanna start trimming out. Now remember, you wanna keep your brisket ice cold till it's time to start working on it. And why is that? Because this fat can congeal on you and be hard as heck to trim, especially when you're in humid Mississippi heat. Now I'm just going to keep hacking away at this right here. Get a little more of that. Now, most of the time when I'm trimming comp style briskets, I always like to start on the bottom. I'm gonna flip this brisket over. A lot of people ask me why. Well, once you stretch this thing out, feel how thick the fat is in certain parts, like right here. You start trimming it down, so when you get over on the front side, you start making your brisket even. Now, while we're running this shot right here, we want to come in here and I'm going to trim off some of this oxidation all the way down. And you see that's got a nice thick point on it. Now I'm going to leave some of this fat right here. I've trimmed some of that off. That's where that point's still feathering on this flat right here. And I'm just going to keep burning away at some of this thick silver skin. Now, you can see I've about got it cleaned up how I want it on the point here. It don't matter about a little bit of that fat there because I'm cooking on a direct cooker today. Now I am going to take and round this edge right here a little bit and trim some of this heavy off where I can see my fat down this one side. Now I'm going to turn this around and show y'all this. See that heavy fat seam right there? I'm going to get in there and carve some of that out where that brisket will lay a little bit flatter. Change knives. Now, this right here, the tip of this brisket's barely hanging on right here. You can see how we've got a gash in it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. I'm gonna save that. Now, that's gonna expose the fat seam in between the point and the flat. I'm just gonna lay my knife down here and follow it on the point. I wanna try to stay out of that flat, and I'm just gonna come up with my knife and keep carving that fat out. Now, we've got a little bit of thin flap on this one side and our grain's running this way. So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna square this brisket up a little bit and cut that one side off. Now, go ahead and dispose of that and keep trimming on around here. Just kind of remember, I don't want any sharp edges. Now, I'm gonna leave this to a point right here, which way I know my grain is running. You can take your knife and cut a little divot in it like this. That's what I'm gonna do so I can cut that sharp edge off. And that which way I know my grain is running this way when I get ready to slice this brisket. Now you could sit here and you could nitpick on this brisket all day long right now if you wanted to. For me, laid out here like this, I'm gonna be able to season my point with a lot of seasoning to get some good burn ends. This right here is just fat that's gonna melt off the top of this brisket. It's not no really big fat tissues or anything. Just a little bit of fat that's actually gonna help it just self-baste itself, in my opinion. So now that we've got all that kind of cleaned up where we want it, Remember, I'm just gonna go ahead and get it seasoned. Really simple, really easy, and we're gonna get it on our pit. All right guys, now that we've got our brisket all trimmed up, and like I say, it's personal preference. If you wanna knock some more of this off, you can. This is just a good eating style brisket that we're cooking here at home. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get this brisket turned over, I'm gonna get some mustard on it, and I'm just running my straight beef rub on it today. Now we're just gonna pat it in a little bit, turn it over, and repeat the process. All right guys, remember, such a big cut of beef can take a lot of rub. My beef rub was designed for brisket and steaks. I probably don't use it enough. It's also good killer on pork chops or even just straight pork on the grill. On a brisket here with the salt and pepper note that it has, with a little bit of a few of the other ingredients, the paprika, the cumin, the herbs that it has in it, makes a perfect beef rub. If you hadn't tried it, be sure to try it out. Or if you have a favorite beef rub to use on your brisket, use it if you like something different, or just salt and pepper. Remember, completely up to you. Now, we want to get this thing on our pit. Remember, we're going to be cooking on our Deep South Mailbox over roll oak lump charcoal. We're going to fire it up, get it running about 275 to 300 degrees, and we're going to let this thing roll. All right, guys, our Texas Style Brisket has been on our Deep South Smoker Mailbox for 3 hours now. You can see we're running at 275 degrees, been dead on the money. We've got our chef's square dot in here with one probe in it. It's hitting 165, it's time to wrap it. Let's get in here and look at it. Oh my God, how beautiful is that? All right guys, like I said, our brisket was on 3 hours at 275 degrees on our Deep South Mailbox. You can see the incredible bark that it got from that beef rub we put on there. It looks incredible. It's tacking up. I mean, it looks beautiful. Now, the only thing I'm gonna do, I've doubled the foil up on the bottom here. I'm gonna pour a little bit of beef broth, okay, around this, just a little bit. Not much. Probably half a cup total, maybe. Just half a cup. Now, I'm gonna do something a little bit different today. Since we're cooking this on a direct cooker and all that, I'm gonna use a hybrid of foil and butcher paper. So what I wanna do is, I'm gonna take my butcher paper here, and I'm gonna kind of wet the underside. And you can see I just spritz it with a little bit of water, right? Now I'm gonna lay it on top of this brisket just like this, and I'm gonna take this foil and I'm gonna roll up. Just like that. See me roll that up? All right. Now I'm gonna take and spin my pan here. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna keep doing it on the other side. Now, I've made a nice full boat to capture some juices, but I'm gonna allow my bark to breathe through the butcher paper. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna spray a little bit of water on top of that butcher paper just to wet it a little bit where it starts absorbing some of that smoke, and just keep going. We're gonna get it back on the pit. This brisket's probably gonna take another 2 hours or a little more to finish cooking. We're looking for an internal of about 204, 205 degrees since we're cooking at 275. I'm gonna set my square dot at 203 just as a good round number. Get it back on the pit, get the probe in it, and we're gonna be waiting. All right guys, our brisket is hitting 209 degrees. I had my probe set to 203. It just wasn't tender enough for me, so I let it keep going. I believe 209 is gonna be that magic number. Now, as you can see, oh, look at that right here. That butcher paper, let's poke right through it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We got that butter filled. Let's get her panned up and get her rested. All right, guys, our Texas style brisket is off of our Deep South mailbox. It's had a total cook time of 6 hours, and that grilled beef flavor you get from that direct heat off the mailbox of that fat dripping on that fire is incredible. And one of the reasons I wanted to use a full boat and butcher paper on top, it just gives me the combination of best of both worlds. Let's get this in our Yeti cooler, let it rest for a couple hours to where that thing can just really relax, and it'd be like a piece of butter when we start slicing it. Let's get it in here and start a timer. All right, guys, we are back. Remember, our Deep South mailbox runs 275 to 300 degrees, 3 hours unwrapped, 3 hours in the wrap. You can see that our full boat that we made here and crunched our butcher paper around it. It's all wet like it should be. The moment of truth is here. Let's get in here and see what this bark looks like. Now I'm gonna tear this butcher paper. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh yeah, come to Papa. Let's move it out of the way and get it over here. Now guys, all we want to do is slice our brisket here. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah. Look at that, we got a nice smoke ring. Oh yeah. Now remember, you're not going to just have it pouring out moisture because we didn't wrap in foil. Brisket's good, but look at these burnt ends here, what I want to show you. Oh, look at this. Slice in these babies. Let's turn that around here. Oh yeah. Look at that cube right there. Oh yeah, see how it's just flowing and just, oh yeah. That is a really good traditional Texas style burnt end. It's got a really good crust on it from my beef rub with all the salt and pepper that it has. Really good taste. You can see that the bark blackened up all dark like it should from the rub, and we held in the butcher paper like we did and cooked it, wrapped. You know, 275 to 300 degrees, 6 hour total cook time. We had about a 2 hour rest. This is an 8 hour brisket. It started off at like 16 and a half, 17 pounds. And it was just a regular prime brisket from Costco. And you can see cooking a brisket isn't that hard. If you like what we're doing, be sure to follow along, subscribe, share it with your friends. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. I'll see you next week with another recipe.